Hello, world. So, if you're following the news, you know that there is that hyped thing called OpenClaw. And if you tried it, you probably figured out pretty quickly it is not that simple, not yet. It's still early stages. It's been around for a few months, and it's not very easy to use. You need to know what you're doing. There's a lot of tinkering, it tends to fail. And I have this for about 4 weeks now. I've been focusing it on specific use case on how it can help me to manage my AI newsroom on Telegram, and you've probably seen some videos. If not, it's on my channel. But I've had a lot of issues. OpenClaw is amazing when it works. And for a few weeks, I spent more time troubleshooting it than actually using it. It was really frustrating. It just always failed no matter what, especially when it tried to fix its own settings. It just killed the element called the gateway, which is the center point of this solution. What I decided to do, it started as a personal skill I created called the OpenClaw Optimizer. It had a different name on my system, and you'll see that because it was personal skill. I trained it on all the documentation, forums, Reddit, videos on how everyone are using it, best practices, troubleshooting guides, and I just trained it. And I ran a lot of AI agents collecting information, and then formalizing this knowledge into this skill. And what this skill can do, it can do a lot, honestly. It depends what you want it to do. But one of the goals was obviously to help me reduce cost. OpenClaw is very, very expensive. And if you're using by the token, using API keys, you'll feel it really quickly as it grows. And also, configuring and adding models is not that simple. Sometimes I had to edit JSON and it corrupted, and I had to run the doctor to fix it. I just couldn't handle it anymore. So again, another reason why I created a skill. And also, when your agent is not acting properly, or its behavior is weird and it tends not to respond the way you like, or its personality is really off, yes, sometimes it's the actual model, but in many cases, it's the settings, the soul, the identity, the agent files. There's a lot of files that construct that AI agent called OpenClaw that you run locally. And also there is the user MD, which tell the agent about you. And also, when things change or you update your environment, every time you run something, troubleshoot, you need to teach the AI from the ground up, and it needs to remember. So remembering your deployment, your topology, your settings, everything around it is important when you troubleshoot and you maintain it. So this skill can also handle that. So it remembers your deployment. It creates multiple files under a central folder. It's not under the skill folder. And I explain what I did it. I can explain right now, actually, is if you have multiple tools that you want to use and manage the OpenClaw locally, for example, on my OpenClaw, you'll see in a second, I have anti-gravity, I have Cloud Code, I have Gemini CLI, and sometimes I just switch between them because, for example, in Cloud Code, I have Pro, and after 5 prompts, I usually out of usage. So I switch to anti-gravity, which gives me access to Opus, which I prefer for most of my troubleshooting, and also help you to detect any elements on why things slow, why it's not responding, why it's timing out. I used to blame the APIs for being, but no, there's other elements that you need to tweak to really get the best performance. And this skill knows about this. It fixes its own documentation. And that's what I think it's really cool about this. I'm releasing the skill as a basic foundation. And the expectation is users who will adopt this skill, they will make it their own. They will teach it. They will train it. They will customize. Just like every OpenClaw agent and deployment is different, the same thing I expect from this agent. You will teach it how to become better. You will teach it on your topology. Every time I use it, I always ask the skill, the agent that I'm using at that point, if there is any learnings that it needs to apply back to the skill MD file. And it's doing it sometimes, because sometimes its information was outdated, or the CLI flags were not fully accurate despite the research. It happens. It continuously updates itself. And I think that's what really cool about it. So let me show you first a couple of things. I'll install it on my local system. There are several ways you can install it on multiple tools. For example, you can install it on Cloud or OpenClaw or Cursor, Gemini CLI, Codex, Anti-Gravity, or if you have multiple tools, you can just run this command over here, which essentially will install it on any tool that it detects on your system. I'm just going to quickly show you how I install it. For example, you want to install it only on OpenClaw and you want to use it. So let me take that and launch my terminal, and let me just clear this. And all you need to do is run this command, and you can see the tool that's selected is OpenClaw. Depends on the tool you select, you just run this. That's it. So at this point, this skill is deployed. So it detected I have the OpenClaw folder, which is this one, and I have workspace, and this is where you usually save the skill. And this is the skill named Optimizer. And I could, for example, if I had OpenClaw, I can run it and I could just start using it and tell it to start scanning. And another thing I have in the skill, and I'll show you right now, I waited a couple of days after I released that skill because it's also able to check and determine if there are updates and ask you, should you run a script to check what is the latest changelog, what was added, what was fixed, and it will compare what it knows about your environment and will tell you if it's worth it. Usually it's worth to upgrade, but it will tell you if the release includes specific fixes for issues that you're facing. For example, I faced an issue with Gemini CLI authentication. It's failed. There is a known issue on the GitHub, and it should be fixed at some point. I haven't checked the latest releases, so let's try it out. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to remote into my OpenClaw server. I'm going to use a Mac remote screen sharing. So here I am. Let me just close that. I don't know where it came from. That's my OpenClaw. As you can see here, usually I have a couple of windows always running where I tell the logs and making sure, just an old habit I had when things stopped working and I just immediately looked at the logs. So I'm telling two logs. One of them is OpenClaw logs follow and local time, so I can see exactly the time. And the second, I'm telling specific the error log, because sometimes errors don't display in the main log, so I just like to tell both. And I have it running on my screen. It's over there. I can always see it. And if something doesn't work, I'm immediately can see what's going on. But what we're going to use right now is Claude. So I'm going to open Claude in this screen, and I'm going to launch Claude. Okay, so as you know, with Claude, the best way to load a skill is just to do, actually before that, I want to make sure that, because the main skill is under the OpenClaw folder. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another skill I created called the Universal Skills Manager. I'm going to ask it to sync the OpenClaw skill to all installed systems, because I want to make sure that the Cloud code will use the latest up-to-date skill, because as mentioned earlier, this skill it continuously updates itself, and I've been using it primarily with the OpenClaw itself. Use that skill to sync the OpenClaw skill to all tools I have in my system. Hopefully this makes sense. So let me just wait for it to finish. Okay, so it ran the skill, and you can see it detected the skill Universal Skill Manager is across the board, and a lot of skills that were detected on OpenClaw, which this Universal Skill Manager support, you can see it's there's a lot. But the one I'm interested is my personal skill, and it's this one. So I'm just going to copy the name, and I'm going to ask it. So I just told it to, hopefully we'll understand, I have to make sure it's not overwriting. So now the OpenClaw code will use the universal skill to spread the latest version of the Optimizer skill into my system. And it's going to use, and don't worry if it's going to fail, I have a backup. By the way, I also set up a backup that my skill and all related system files are always pushed to my personal GitHub. So that's something, again, just in case I have backup of everything. There we go. Now it's going to check the timestamps, and that's kind of one of the capabilities of this Universal Skills Manager, and everything is now up to date. Let's clear and start from the beginning. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch my skill. And the skill name, again, this is my personal original version that I started for a few weeks. And then I took it and converted it into a public skill that everybody can use and adopt, that you saw on the GitHub. So now I'm going to do something unique. I have not updated the system for a few days, but before that, I'm going to run it. So you can see it looks at the skill, it checks the status, the version, compare it. It knows there is a new version. And if I'll go back into OpenClaw on my system here, and this is the OpenClaw, you'll see there is a new version. And once you click on the versions in OpenClaw, the changelog is quite large, right? It's a lot of things that you need to kind of read if you care about what you're installing. And it's a lot, right? There's a lot. Not beyond human scale. So we need, I didn't know it's that's big to this time. But okay, let's see how this skill is managed. And now it's going to run that skill. You'll see what happens. So it's going to digest all the information in that particular, and it's going to, because again, notice it's really large, so it's going to paste it into a local file. And I'm just going to let it do it. Okay. So as you can see, it gave me a high-level overview of what applies. So for example, they added Minimax emp to 5, and there is a new CLI, Node.js version support. Now we need to update to that. Node.js was previously unspecified, and some information. Now, as you can see, is saying I discovered a few things that change, right? So now there's new API reference, the new config validation, and there's a new model, and also they added troubleshooting information. So it's asking me, do you want to update the skill MD? So yes, let's update the skill MD with the latest information. So now it will update the skill to make sure that it's really compatible with the latest version that it's out there. And again, we haven't updated yet. We're just preparing to make sure that we know what to use and prepare for the upgrade. For example, you saw it detected that now we need a special version of Node.js. And it will make sure that before I run the update, it will guide me through the process to make sure that this update will not break anything. And there were some scenarios where I had to update, and it told me that some of the updates, the default settings, will revert some of my local settings. And now you can see it update its local skill that makes sure that it knows that it's aligned, and I'll let it just do its thing. You know what? I'll just gonna let it accept all changes. It tells itself now they support this Minimax because it's building its knowledge. It's kind of continuously building its knowledge, and just as it's doing it, so I just want to show you where we keep the system files. So when you keep the system files, it's actually going to create it under here. So you can see this is the remote OpenClaw Optimizer. And the reason, like I said, the reason I did it is that all tools, Cloud Code, OpenClaw, they all know that this is the location of the system file. You can see all the channels. For example, it maps the Telegram. I'm using Telegram for the main communication between OpenClaw and my channels. It keeps information of all the cron jobs and what the model and what the schedule and everything beyond that. And also it keeps a record of all the issues it discovered for the last few days. And then there is an archive with more details. And the reason, originally I had one file, it was getting really, really big. So I broke it down to smaller pieces so it can only pick and load on demand the files that it needs that make sense, and some lessons that it continuously update from interacting with the environment if things break when it's doing something. So it keeps a lessons file, all the providers that are doing, all the routing that I'm handling, and of course the topology. Right now it's just my main gateway, and then this computer over here that is connect on a secure tailscale to this gateway. I'm only using it for web and actual Mac app. There's this OpenClaw cannot do anything on my personal computer, obviously for security reasons. And it's more or less from the main folder. So it's always going to create this here when you launch it for the first time. There are instructions for the skill to create that folder in that path. If you're going back here, so now it's going to update the skill again. Yep. So we're done. So now I'm telling it, please make sure to read the system information and then compare it to the version and tell me if there's anything that I had. Like I mentioned, there were several issues. One of them was the GLI, the Gemini CLI auth. And I know there was an open issue. I'm not sure if it's in this case, but we'll see in a second. So here you can see it gives me an overview of everything in that version. So, heartbeat noise. Yeah, that's something that I've seen this happening several times. That's nice. Still isolated cron sessions accumulating on disk. Yes, I also seen that. And it tells me you have 9 isolated. And I'm not going to go through all of this because, again, your time is valuable. But the point is that this tool, if you try OpenClaw and you're having issues and you tried a lot of things, I would recommend for you to try this skill. Give it a chance. It's designed to learn, to evolve, to improve. My recommendation is download it, install it, try it out, and it will never do anything without your approval. That's the most important thing. That's something I really want to highlight. This tool has explicit warning, never change anything without the user approval. And my request from you, the users, make sure that you review. It's still an AI. It still can make mistakes. So please don't just click next, next, next. This is not vibe coding. You are maintaining a system that, in my case, it's become a vital element in my use case, which is, for example, the Telegram. And you can also, for example, here you can see this is my environment. If you want to load a skill in Telegram, so you can do skill, and I can say JBD. And for example, here, it will, I made a mistake, but hopefully it will figure it out. It's Opus, so it should be smart enough to understand. So here it is. And again, this is the tricky one because, as you remember, I made the updates on Claude. OpenClaw, which has its own copy of the MD, doesn't know about it. So I'm going to ignore this because once I'm done with Claude, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync the Claude skill with the main OpenClaw, so it'll be always synchronized. And again, I'm going to use the Universal Skills Manager to help me synchronize it instead of copying files manually. And you can use that within OpenClaw or outside. So that's what I had to show you. Hopefully you find this useful. I don't know if I'm going to maintain this project because, again, it's designed as a foundation. And as you use it, it'll become your own customized skill. But if there's anything breaking or issue, please let me know on GitHub. I file an issue or PR to make it better. I'll do my best to maintain it. And that's it. So thank you again and see you in my next video. Cheers.
AI spotlight illuminating the future of AI.